All right, welcome to another edition of Artist Talk on Bob's Radio. My name is Rio Raymond, and I'm in the company of Qonjay, Jamal, and I don't know how do I put this. What do I define this gentleman from? He's got such a multi-diverse origin. Now based in the US, of course, Qonjay. I'm still confused from the time I spoke to you about where the roots exactly from. Could you tell us where exactly your roots are from, India and across Asia?
Well, so most of my life I've been in America. I was born in Pakistan, but I came to America when I was like 3, 4 years old. And I've always spent a lot of time back and forth between Pakistan and America. But I have roots in like Burma and India as well. Like a lot of my relatives around like partition time, like some of them moved to India, some of them stayed in Burma. So like there's relatives I've never met that I have in India and in Burma. So it's kind of weird, I guess, around that time because of like all the wars and stuff. A lot of things just got shuffled.
Well, that explains as to how most of your streams are from this Asian part of the world, which
Yeah,
have
for
written a lot
sure.
of numbers for you. So we're going to dig a lot more into that. Let's start off with understanding: is Kanji Jamal a full-fledged musician, or does he do some other side hustle, or is music a side hustle?
Well, honestly, in today's landscape, I think it's very hard for a musician to only be a musician. It's almost nearly impossible. Most musicians, even like the musicians that are out there and have made a name for themselves, even for them, music isn't how they make money, right? They have to use music as a tool to make different streams and
Right.
revenues. And that's how it works, right? So, yeah, I obviously have other side hustles. I'm working on a clothing brand as well that I'm trying to launch. Um, it's actually great. I get a chance to talk about this stuff because if you're a musician right now, the industry is like going through like very big transformations, right? The world itself, it's a lot of unpredictable stuff going on right
Tell
now,
me
right?
about
We
it.
can't. So right now, it's I'm kind of in a confusing place because uh, I don't know I don't know which way to go in some senses. I don't know how things are going to end up. But right now, it seems like the whole music industry is going towards turning the musician into a small business entity instead of like the superstardom. I think it has political factors behind that too. But yeah, we're in a weird place in the world right now. So
Well, what you
no
say
telling.
actually resonates with not just musicians, I'm sure, but also people who are on the gram. Like today, everything is based on your social media account, not with the craft that you are known for. So you build your following even by putting on a cringe. You still will be valued more than someone with an actual art or the right kind of work that's going on. So these are things we will discuss, man. And this is something I know this conversation is going to get exciting as it builds on. So let's start with your music part of it. You are passionate about this art form, but this is not something that you grew up with. I'm guessing, but although you do have the roots of it to speak of music for itself, to be a part of you. But over time is when you started indulging into this passion and building on hopefully a great career for you in the future to come by. But what was the whole reason why you say, okay, I'm going to pursue music? Because or you rather have seen the transition of phases, the evolving of new phases of music industry standards. So, looking at all this, was it a hard call? How did the call happen? Very curious about that.
And so I started making music before the whole social media era even started, right?
Right.
I started making music when CDs and stuff were on their like kind of last days.
Mm-hmm.
They were that's kind of how back then music, I guess people were downloading illegally. There was kind of no system when I started, right?
Right.
So when I started making music, I didn't even think in my mind that, hey, I'm trying to, make money off of this, or I just got into it because like I was very like into, I grew up in, an urban neighborhood. So rap was like very, it was the dominant form of music. So that always just drew me, and I started making music. And then as we got older, things kept changing. So it was hard to. It's music from like a creator's perspective has always been fun, but as a business perspective, it's always been horrible. It makes me not want to even make music. When I think about the business part of it, I just don't want to even do it anymore because there's so much politics. There's so much like it's crazy. It's like very, very tough. So I don't know where the music industry is headed, but it's not easy for I'm I'm actually afraid that I don't even know if like there's a future where like there's gonna be a lot of musicians the way things are going.
Uh, it's a hard thought to ponder on, man. I can't deny what you're saying, especially going at the way social media is taking over in terms of how musicians have to promote. It's a great tool, but the way the process or the format of things are pretty different. That is what we will also discuss in detail right as we go in. Now, you have two songs, bro, Koi Aur Na Ho and Only You. So these two songs have raked in millions of streams for you. One is full-fledged Hindi, one is Hindi and English. Now, the songs don't sound, if you'd ask anyone, they don't sound like the norm of what the music industry standards of today, like, hard, high pumping beats of sorts. They're pretty calm. And then there comes in a rap session, there comes in, like, your vocals and all that. It's pretty good. It's very artistic, one could say. When you put this out, you did make the numbers as well. And did you have people who say, dude, this is not going to sell, but you still ended up having good streams for it?
Yeah, so before so Only You was the first song that kind of blew up for me. I think that's around the time when Instagram changed their algorithm, right? So before that, I always had like a very, very small little fan base, and I would always release like a little bit of songs, nothing officially. But I don't really have a team. It's like I'm producing my stuff, most of it, or I'm buying instrumentals. I do like the audio engineering on it, everything, right? So there's not really anyone telling me something is gonna work or not work. I just kind of go off like my own intuition and put it out there. But like my goal was never like because after a while when you keep releasing music and no one like you can't get it out there, it's kind of like you're in it either for the love of it or like you're gonna give up, right? Most musicians, 2, 3 years, 4 years after that, they stop because they're like, oh, I'm not getting famous, I'm not making money, I'm not a millionaire by now, so like they quit. But like me, I just kind of got. It's like a venting thing for me. This is how I vent like my life. I'll just make a song and I'll put it out there. If people hear it, hey, good. If not, I don't care if people don't listen to it. Like it's just I try to keep the process pure. I try not to get caught up in like the social media part, the hype of things, and because it social media is like in essence it's great, but like the way society is, they've kind of twisted it up. They've taken the marketing tool and turned that into the main perspective of all art form. Like even now, and I don't think it's just music. It's even like the sports like industry, movie industry, all of it has gotten affected because of our mindset, not because of social media, but how we choose to, use social media. We just kind of watch highlights of everything, right? Even when there's a cricket match or a football match, not too many people will watch the whole thing. They just go on social media, they find out, hey, who won, what were the main, highlight of the game or whatever, and that's how they kind of consume everything. And music, you can't consume it like that. Movies, music, you can't consume that
It's
stuff
funny,
like that.
that nowadays music is consumed in a format where you need to catch the attention of your audience within the first 10 seconds, otherwise you lose them. Which is terrible to listen to, especially knowing the impact that music as an art form has on people. And when you look at it also, like what you were saying of how the algorithm plays a vital role in turning a musician into, I wouldn't say a businessman, but think more like a business perspective. So to an extent, like say I got a hit today when I was watching on my social media, and it hit me like I know like certain seasons there are certain topics or certain subjects that totally trend. Like say right now, cricket is trending in India like huge. So anything that you see, it is about cricket. And the most recent thing is about the RCB and Chennai Super Kings match. So that everybody is doing that because so it's like the gram tells you what to do. It's not about you doing what you want to do, and for that to hit a good number. So somewhere it is, you can say it's a double-edged sword. You either get drowned in it or you swim along with it. So that is where it is today. It's a sad reality. Now, when you say the industry is changing, like you say you don't have any idea what's going to happen. What are these reasons that make you say that? Is it because of social media, or do you think music as an industry itself is evolved to a huge extent where you don't see the better for the change?
Well, I think a lot of it is political because you're seeing like this whole situation in the world right now. So just recently, if y'all have noticed, there was a big rap battle beef going on between Kendrick Lamar and Drake, right? But if you really look into the details of it, it's really you're seeing TikTok, which is a Chinese owned entity, and then you're seeing Universal Music Group. So recently, Universal Music Group, they dissolved most of uh, the smaller labels that they had, which weren't small labels, but just smaller compared to Universal. But like Def Jam, I think Rock Nation, Interscope, they dissolved all of these labels and turned them into one. But what's happening is they're actually fighting, right? It's Chinese owned entities, TikTok, because in America, the main source of like promotions and the main way to get your music out there became TikTok, right? So most of these musicians in America are blowing up on TikTok, and the Universal Music Group doesn't like that. They don't want that because that takes away money from them and is giving Chinese owned entity the power to decide what music is dominating in America and in the world. So that's, you see how that's a big problem. And then on top of that, musicians, the inner politics within American industry or any music industry has a lot of politics. Your ethnicity matters, uh, your connections matter, everything matters, right? Your religious perspective even matters. Even if you're a very talented artist and you're someone that's like very like talking about God or like, you know, they're not gonna try to promote that here, right? It's just that's how the music industry has been shaped, and that's how they control things. Like it's
Are you
deeper.
also saying that when we look at the kind of music that's coming out today, a lot has been spoken about how satanic the music lyrics or
Yes.
things are. So are you saying it's going down that direction?
No, I think it's because it was going down that direction for so long that now it's at a point that uh the even the artists that have a lot of talent coming up in the underground, they don't want to sign a record deal, right? A lot of people, a lot of artists are even trying to avoid streaming platforms now. That's something I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about going direct to consumer because I rather have one or 2,000 very like genuine like quality fan base instead of having millions of streams and still not,
So
it
what is your
doesn't do
reason
anything.
behind this? Why do you say this? To not want to go to streams and be out there?
Okay, so for example, if especially if you're an artist coming up in India, right? And even if you get millions of streams on your Spotify, you're barely making anything.
Right,
Because one, the pay rate is different too, right? So if you're an artist from India, they're gonna pay you different compared to an artist in America. It depends on where your fan base and where your
right,
streams are coming from. So like they're not gonna pay you much. So even if you're making millions of dollars, I mean millions of like streams, you're not gonna get paid millions of dollars or nothing
right.
like that, right? The pay rate is absolutely pathetic. Like it will blow your mind. You could do millions of streams and not make nothing, right? And it costs money to make music. They've turned the artist into the customer. Think about it. All these services are selling services to artists. You have to buy beats. People are buying audio engineering services, graphic services. Everything is catered and designed to sell to the artists. There's artists that are paying to perform. Do you know how crazy that is?
Oh,
Imagine artists are paying to perform. That's like me opening a restaurant and paying people to come eat there.
eat.
So when your whole model is turned upside down, right? How is the music industry going to survive? You make money off of your sales and your shows, but if artists are paying to perform outside of just the top 1% of artists, all these other artists are either are performing for free, and in like a lot of situations they're paying. Like the whole payola thing is real, right? Like every piece of promotion comes from paying. There's not much people out here that are genuinely like that are finding talent and trying to like, you know, have people like, that's why I respect you. And I really do respect you because you're one of the few people I've seen that's not trying to juice everybody for a little bit of money, right? But if you go into like the other avenues, everybody's doing that.
You
Everybody,
know,
nobody cares about the, you know,
when
the
when I
state.
got in touch with you and you said, wait, you're not charging for this, there's no charges for it. And it wasn't just you. A couple of them, in fact, got in touch with me and told me about this. And I was like, dude, this is not how radio was back in the day. So the idea for me to do Bob's Radio was to promote music of independent artists. Yes, why? Because the labels have taken over and they're pushing their artists through. That is not the only reason, also, but I want to bring back a little bit of the old school radio, which meant artists went to radio stations because there's no other way or platform for people to listen to music. And the kind of choices that they got, or rather, they didn't have a choice, but just, out of random playouts of music. Queen went to radio stations, Beatles went to radio stations. And I'm not saying I'm going to find Beatles and the Queens of the years to come, but I wanted to create a platform that is fitting for artists. And that's the whole purpose of this. And thank you for the words that you mentioned as well. Now, diving into this industry, this is very, very interesting for me. Do you say this is something persistent in the US, or it's also outside of the US towards the eastern side of the world?
I think it's gonna trickle down all the way, but I think that's why I say it is a very political thing. There's right now where everything's up in the air. There's no telling like what the new system's gonna be, if there's gonna be a new system. Because right now the truth is we're in a global conflict. Whether people like to believe that or not, like we're in a global conflict. And until this whole thing sorts out, it's just different warfare. It's modern warfare, so we
Correct.
don't feel it's not World War II, right? They're not just gonna, but you're feeling the economic like pressure in every country. There's a lot of like even shipping has been kind of, if you realize a lot of products take more time to ship, certain things are happening, and that's why it's happening, right? It's all politics and all this stuff going on. And the same thing is going on with the music industry because they've kind of played that into the politics right now, right? It's a big part of politics, the whole TikTok. I think India has banned TikTok, right?
Yeah.
India doesn't get along with China either, right? So like, there's definitely like all these problems play in. That's why I'm saying music and movies are very politicized things. Like, you can't. They're like certain things you can't say. Certain artists they won't let. Most of the artists you see are there because they were given the green light by someone in the like higher up in the chain, right? You can't just get popular like that. They can stop you, like if
There
you're
are
not.
give and takes in this world, and sometimes you got to budge to what their requirements are. And
Oh
are
yeah,
you saying that this is mostly controlled by labels, or are you saying it's more towards the government side that are doing this?
I think all governments are like. I think any entities, like anything you're affiliated with, like there's gonna be some backlash, like or some form of control. Whether it's gonna be your ethnic part, your religious part, where you stay. All these governments, corporations, they all function the same way. You
But
know,
you know
like
what, Qonjay, if I was a regular person, like for example, I'm not someone who's following the industry of sorts, or not into the music scene. But if I would look at you, I would say, okay, wait, maybe he's not signed a record deal with somebody, and that's why he's venting out. So, I mean, this could be somebody who's just listening to you for the first time and saying, hey, possibly he's not had it, man. He's not made it into music. So that's why he's venting out and going against these sort of thoughts. So, what would you say to sort of defend yourself if these kind of thoughts come in?
well, I actually had signed a label deal in India. It was a pretty known label too, but we had misunderstandings right off the back. And then plus, what artists need to understand that major labels, what the a major label is acting as a bank for the artists. All the money that these artists get, it's an upfront, like they're just giving you an advance loan. And then what their deal is, what they're saying is, hey, once you sign the deal, we're gonna give you this much money to put into your music or your lifestyle or whatever. And then once you release your music, we're gonna have to get all this money back plus interest. And then on top of that, if we make something, you get a piece of that action, right? So most artists, you will not believe, like even some of the most biggest artists that we think are very rich are not rich. It's like they have money to play around with, but that's money loaned to them, right? It's the same thing as a bank. And then most artists don't even own their masters. So I had signed a deal in India, and I had some labels that were I was talking to here, but the labels here in America are they're more weird. Like they have certain demands and like certain, that you have to be a certain way when you sign certain deals with like record labels. You have to promote certain stuff. You have to dress a certain way. It's like it sounds crazy, but that's the truth.
It's a whole
That's how
personality
they
build up, right?
yeah, exactly. And then in India, the problem I had over there was like they were kind of, it was a bad deal to begin with, and then they were kind of pushing me to like just give them quantity instead of quality. And like, so I was kind of like, I don't know if this is gonna work. And then like, so I kind of like broke off the deal because we were like, we didn't really have a crazy deal. It was like a distribution deal. And I'm thankful for it. I'm glad I did that because like, if you're an artist, if you sign a deal, not only are you not gonna make money, but like even if you get famous, and let's say an artist makes like, you know, gets a lot of fans, makes money, appears to make money up front, but in the end, the labels keep all your music. And then when you're not a hot artist anymore, even that money is gone, and you're required to pay back all the money they, you know, they gave you as a loan.
Right.
So you're at the end. That's why you see a lot of, in America, you'll see a lot of artists towards the end of their lives go broke. They don't have money, they fall in hard times, and that's why, because like they never really had anything to begin with. It's just a label letting you use their cars, letting you wear the jewelry, you know what I mean? So it's a very, it's all theatrics. It's very like, but I mean, a lot of people know this now, right? The people are waking up. And I don't think it's necessarily anything bad, but it's just like the main problem is the consumer has changed, right? Even the audience, they don't value music anymore. Like they
It's more
just, because we're
sound
so
than
used to it, you
it's more
know, we're just
sound.
used to it.
Yeah.
It's
And
like background music for people now. It's just like,
correct.
okay, yeah, I go on Spotify. Back then, you had a physical product. You were waiting for an album to come out. You had to go buy the album. You know, it was a whole experience, and that's gone now. That was like the magical part to it, and they've just, you know, taken that away. Now
But
you get an
also, if you
album
look
and
at it,
go.
Qonjay, from what you just said, uh, you can't have the good of everything in one nutshell. You'll need to have, like, say, when Spotify came. I'm not someone who's against Spotify, any of the streaming platform, because they do put craft out there, music out there. So it's for a global audience to listen to music, and editorial playlists. All these things help as well. But can it turn out to be better in terms of favoring an artist? Yes, eventually, if they work it out together. But from what I understand from what you said, let me ask you this. Do you think an artist today should sign up with a label or not? And if they don't, do you think they can make it as an indie artist?
So I mean, today's, even if you sign to a label, there's no guarantee to that you're gonna. They kind of look at, these days they sign, first of all, they're gonna sign an artist that they know is already kind of like, you know, getting a fan base, right? And then even if they sign you, they're very like short term and crooked deals. If they do a transparent deal and they're giving you your masters and like splitting whatever, like the rights, and giving you you know, proper like deal, which rarely happens, then it's different. But like, if a label's not really doing anything for you, if you're the one making all your music, like, and you're the one doing all the work, what's the point of having a label? Because advertising, marketing doesn't cost as much as it used to, right? You can find cheap ways to market. But the problem is, at the end, is getting these labels and like streaming platforms to actually pay you. Like, unless you're someone selling merchandise and doing other things, you're
Right.
not gonna make money. Music is not going to make you money. Music is a promotional tool. Music is marketing, because you're using your music to market yourself, your brand. And then if you can make money off of that, but then that's where fan base comes in, right? It's harder to do that from like South Asian, you know, we have different like culture, we have different possibilities. Over here in America, they'll go buy your a $300 shoe that you release as an artist, and to people that really like you might go buy it. But even over here now, obviously, like, America's not doing so well either. Trust me, it's like it's in bad situation, bad condition. So I just feel like the whole world is going through a reset. You know, all the markets, all industries. But during that reset, we're gonna have some like bad, like, you know, the next 3 4 years I feel like are gonna be very tough in everything.
Well, it's a hard future to look at. I'm not going to deny what you're saying because I do read a lot about stuff like this as well. Uh, Even when I was watching one of the videos on Instagram, one of the artists we actually got in touch with. So there was a video he put out where I figured that it's not the craft that someone goes after, it's the following that the people are going after, or brands that they're going after. There was this artist online who we got in touch with as well. He put out this video where he's calling a record label, and that guy on the face tells him, that, oh, okay, how many followers do you have? So he said we have about 10 to 12,000. And then the person from the label side says, oh, sorry, we don't do anybody, we don't even consider anyone below 50,000 followers. And I'm like, whoa, whoa. This is where you realize, like, you are not giving music its credibility. You're giving people, the followers, the credibility, and not the craft the person's putting out. Yes, there are ways people get a following. Sometimes people also do bots. If that is also going to be the case, then I don't think music is going to be served right, and it'll lose
Yeah.
out as an art form in eventual time. And knowing the importance of music, it's not just an entertainment, it's life for some people. Apart from just the musicians, even people who listen to it's motivational. There's so much of energy that releases out of music, for the betterment of people who are listening to it. And to look at the dark side of things that are developing, it's sad. It's definitely sad. Which is also a reason why some artists don't go on to promote themselves in social media, and some artists, their craft doesn't really come out the way it has to come, or they would have probably been top class before they started getting this following and went downhill as well. Now, when you look at all this, you also told me that you are not looking at going to do music. I mean, you sometimes feel like, why should I even pursue this? But what makes you go at it? Is it because this is your window to look out and put your emotions into the song?
Yeah, it's just for me, it's just the personal like passion that I have for music. And I like making music. I love making music. But as far as like, putting out music, that's kind of like, because like I said, people don't value it as much. People value, if I went and rented a Lamborghini and I paid some model right now and I made a video with a shitty song, people will go respond to it and like share it. But if you make a good song and you put up a normal piece of artwork and you're not, you don't do none of the gimmicks, it won't have that response to it. And that's where I feel like art is dying, because all the artists are focusing on the gimmicks on social media. They don't care about the music itself. You listen to 99% of music that's coming out these days is garbage. It really is. Like, I try not even to listen to music these days. Like, apart from like certain type of music, I won't even go listen to certain, because it just starts to influence you in a bad way too, right? And that's why back in the day, artists were a lot more talented because they actually took time, they developed their art, they cared about it. Now it's just all about promotion, right? Like, what can I do every day, or what can I, how can I act, or it's become a whole crazy, never-ending loop of social media. It's not even music no more. It's just like anything you do has to go through social media, and people have just lost it on. So I think social media is great. It's just what we choose to promote on there and the way we behave on there is absolute pathetic. And people don't realize, but think about how strong of a technology this stuff is. It's literally like a different dimension, right? In the outside world, it doesn't exist, but in your phone, there's people doing businesses, there's people making money, so it can be good, used for good and bad, right? So that means like it's a whole different dimension in your hands that reality exists in. And if you really think about it, there's a spiritual world too. People don't believe in the spiritual world, but it's the same concept, right? So what goes on in this little realm affects your life, just like the spiritual realm. If something's bad in the spiritual realm, your energy will get affected. And
You
that
know,
it's
it's
the same
funny.
thing with this.
What's funny is even the people who claim themselves to be spiritual are also on the gram, on the social medias, pushing out their content. So I'm like, then where is
Yeah.
spirituality?
It's really like that, yeah. They'll be like, "Hey, I'm gonna give you the spirituality. Just buy my course real quick for 100. Let me show you how to make $1 million real quick." But I'm here selling my course online. If I knew how to make $1 million real quick, why would I be online on YouTube trying to tell the whole
Tell the
world?
whole
Like,
world.
so yeah, there's a lot of gimmicks, a lot
Twisted,
of
twisted,
frauds.
twisted stuff.
It's
But let's look at
horrible.
the bright side and see what Qonjay is going to bring out. Is there music coming out? You said you've not released an album yet, but is that in the works at least?
Yeah, so I was thinking of going a little bit of a different route. I have music ready, but then I've started to question like the whole distribution system. I'm just like, it's just nonsense. At this point, it just doesn't make sense for me to do that. And there's a lot of artists going direct to consumer. So And what that does is like you have to actually like have a legit fan base, right? Or else they're not gonna go buy it. If you have to have legit music that people want to go listen to.
Right.
And I know I have some like a decent amount of fan base. They're really dedicated like to the music part of it, right? So like I feel like I should rather try that and release it directly on my website with like, uh I'm gonna do a bundle deal to where they're doing these download cards now. So like I was gonna make like a CD with the download card and T-shirt and like sell it as a bundle package to someone who wants the music instead of put it up on streaming. I just feel like that's better to do at this point. Even if you get like 100 people, that's better than streaming, right? Like that's more dedicated fan base you have than
And
just
they
going on
always have a
streaming.
piece of the musician with them, and they don't go to a cloud. To This is what one of our friends who's an artist as well did. In fact, he's still at it, and we plan to do something similar for artists where people can buy the music of a certain artist off our website as well. That's something that's going to come up in the future. But I'm looking forward to the album. Hopefully, you get a little more motivated, like more positive about reaching out to the audience that matter to you, or the audience that really cares for your music and stuff, because I like it, and I'm sure a lot of others also would like it, and not live in this conundrum that is a template built. This is how music should be today. So, and I must say, man, Kanjay, like you have like whatever I have thought of or had an idea of, you've just widened that for me. From my conversation with you, because I know for a fact that when I started this, my purpose was to serve the artist and the art. And from the conversation that I've had with you, I think I am headed in the right direction to what I want to achieve with Bob's Radio. And for that, of course, we'll need artists like you to support us, keep coming on board, getting your music in, and we will try and get to as many people as we can. And but just to ask you, when you look at all of this, does collaboration even come as a thought to you, like collaborating with other artists?
So even like I would be open to collaborating, but then the same type of deal comes in. Like there's a lot of artists think from a very egoistical place, right? How much followers does this person have? How much followers do I have? Does that make me the bigger artist or make him the like they get too much, they get lost in all that. And I've had people that I've reached out to that aren't even successful musicians that will act like they're big headed and not respond to people because I have 20,000 fake followers. I have to act like I'm a big artist. So I feel like that's what's destroying even the collab process. There's a lot of ego, a lot of pride, and like people aren't like, it's very hard to work with people, man, these days. It's so hard.
I mean,
And that's why I'm kind of like disheartened by the whole thing. It
it
really
is
is.
a sad time that we are living in. I mean, not just in terms of music, but also a lot of other things. Like, I know it's very hard to get this generation to put in the hard work. I'm not saying there are not many people who don't do the hard work of the generation, but then most of them are built with a template: quick work, easy money. There is no principle of working a little. I mean, learning and working hard. It's just about the gram. The social media just built everything. Gone are the days when you had to study, you had to hustle and do a couple of things. But today it's about hustling on the gram. I have to put up my video like this. I have to do this with my video. I have to put it up at this time. And this, somewhere or the other, you have broken away from being a slave to somebody else by working in a company. But you are, or rather, even for us as a brand, when you put out content, we become slaves to the social media worlds, because you are following the protocols and the timeline set by the gram, and that's going to be changing the algorithm as time goes by. uh, this, a lot of people believe, is a bubble that will burst, but I don't know how big the bubble is becoming and when that burst would happen. Because it's high time people get a reality check and treat certain things the way they need to be treated. Treat these platforms as platforms of consumption and the
Exactly.
right kind of marketing tool, not as feeders of protocols and processes.
You're absolutely right. Because I don't think, like I said, I don't think necessarily social media was made for people to act like this. I think it was made for a good reason. And I think there's a lot of benefits from it. It's helped people. But I think it's really society. Because how can we blame young people for being like this when our own culture, our own societies, they're putting so much pressure on these little, like, even the youngest like people by a certain age, you're expected to be married, be successful, have a house, have a nice car. Like how does one person do this in 25 to 30 years of their life? right? Like literally, that's how, and especially Desi culture is so like there's so much like pressure, right? If you don't do all these things by 30, 32, you're not even gonna be able to marry the girl you want to marry, right? Or marry the guy you want to marry. Like there's so much like, and that's why young people are going crazy. Like they don't care about anything because like there's too much pressure for like people where we expect too much from life, from people, from everything. Like life doesn't need to be that complicated, right? Like people are
It's
so
simple.
obsessed with being rich, and like it's like, bro, just be simple. Like we don't need a, you don't, one person needs so much today to be just normal,
It's
and
sad
that's
that
crazy.
the online consumption makes you needy a lot of times with a lot of things that you watch, but that's a sad reality of it. And maybe sometimes people, hopefully in time, people would change. But I'm gonna tell you this, man. I had an amazing time conversing with you, like talking about things in detail and in deep. I'm looking forward to your music to get on board. Like we already have the two songs that you already sent us, but we're looking forward to more coming by. And if there is a light that can help an artist, I hope we can be the light in some way or the other that pushes out their music in some format and bringing a new set of audiences as well. Thank you so much, Qonjay. Sorry to wake you up in the morning to do this interview.
No, no, you're
Uh,
good, man.
but seems like, doing this with people who wake up early in the morning is a good thing to do. Some really good thoughts and conversations to come through.
Oh yeah, the mornings are the best, and it was good talking to you too, man. And I appreciate that. There's a few platforms where people are trying to like promote pure like artists and art, and I really do like appreciate your show and everything. You're doing a great job, man.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you so much. And once again, hope you have a great day ahead. All the best and cheers, bud.